my name is Danielle Waterfield, and I'm really excited to share this presentation with you all today on using generative AI for IEP goals. It's on a study that we did. This is the entire research team here that's listed on this first slide. Most of us are from the University of Virginia, although we do have one folk from the University of Mary Washington. And as you can see on this next slide, these are the presenters of today's webinar. So myself, Danielle Waterfield. We also have Dr. Olivia Coleman, who is a research assistant professor here at the University of Virginia, and then also another fellow doctoral student in special education, Nate Welker. So here's a pretty robust agenda going over the study, but we also really wanted to make it practical. So we're going to balance talking about some practical uses of what we found in the study along with our findings. But first, why even research this? Why do we need to know about this? Well, 7.5 million students in the United States as of the 2022-2023 school year had IEPs. And we know from previous studies that writing high quality IEP goals, which are really the heart of an IEP, they can be really time consuming. And unfortunately, they also can tend to be poorly written, or they have issues with being specific, measurable, or relevant to the student's needs. On top of that, with this really complicated task that is so important, special education teachers, who are the ones that are often writing these IEP goals, have heavy workloads, right? Because they have to balance both this compliance side of things as well as instructional responsibilities and a whole myriad of other things. So we were looking at artificial intelligence as a way for them to kind of have some assistance with the heavy workloads that they do have. And so, kind of thinking about the theoretical components of this, cognitive load theory was centered in this particular study. But it basically just talks about if you have a lot of tasks, you might get overwhelmed, you might not have the knowledge or the skills or anything like that that you might need to adequately perform those things. And it just might be too much for you to do in terms of being overwhelmed. So, can generative AI help lighten this load? That's kind of what we were really interested in investigating. We did use ChatGPT for this study, but I just want to say in general that there are so many different generative AIs that are out there that ChatGPT is not the end all be all, and we're not specifically advertising or anything for ChatGPT in this study. This is just the one that we used to start to tap into this investigation. And when we did that, we used a mixed methods design in our study where we interviewed about a third of the participants who were all special education teachers with at least some degree of experience writing IEPs and implementing IEPs. And then for the quantitative component, we had these experienced special education teachers write IEP goals first just by themselves. We gave them a provided scenario and they just had to write one IEP goal based on that scenario. And then they rated it for 6 indicators of IEP goal quality using the revised IEP IFSP goals and objectives rating instrument. We made a modified version of this based on a previous study that we implemented into the Qualtrics survey for them to do the rating, but it was these most of these indicators that you see on the screen. So they did that first, and then they did that activity essentially again, but with specific directions on how to fill out a prompt to generate an IEP goal using generative AI. And that is where Olivia comes in. Olivia?
Thanks, Danielle. Now I'll take a few minutes just to talk about the prompt that we use, the rationale for it, as well as what was generated by the prompt using the prompt within the generative AI, and then how teachers and practitioners could use the prompt themselves to create IEP goals for their students. So we developed this prompt based on prior research, examining the quality of IEP goals. We also made sure that the prompt applies SMART goal criteria, enough information for the the generative AI to produce a smart IEP goal. So that means being specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. And then also, we wanted to note that this prompt can be used for any IEP goal type or for any student or disability type. So when the participants were asked to put this prompt into the generative AI, they were given a scenario of a fictional student, and enough information was provided in that scenario for them to pull out that information and plug it in here to this prompt. I would like to note that we do have student name. Uh, we did not have to worry about confidentiality as it was a fictional student, but if you are worried about confidentiality, just omit the name and add that in after the goal is generated. We also had them put in student age, and I would keep either age or grade level or both. And that is reason being that to get the generative AI to produce a grade or age appropriate goal for the student. And then all of these other areas, like the present level for goal area, is necessary to know where the student is currently. And then these other criterion that we put in here apply to the SMART goal criteria. When the participants put in all the information into the prompt and then added it to the generative AI, it spit out different types of goals, which was interesting. But these are just a couple examples. The goals weren't too different from each other, but they did differ somewhat. So here you see we have within 1 year in a classroom setting, Kevin will improve his math skills to meet grade level math standards as evidenced by achieving an RIT score of at least 194 with 80% accuracy in 3 out of 4 progress monitoring assessments. And then this other example is by the end of the school year, Emmett, a 10-year-old student with a specific learning disability in reading, will increase his reading fluency. He will be able to accurately read aloud at a rate of 80 words per minute during instructional level reading passages. Now, these examples were untouched. The prompt was provided by the participant, put into AI, press enter, and then it generated these examples. What I do want to note for practical use of this prompt for practitioners out there is that that will not be the end all be all. We highly suggest this is how you use the prompt to best meet the needs of generating IEP goals for your students. So you'll take that present level information and then you'll fill out the prompt that we provided with that information. So remember, present level information not only provides where they are, where the student currently is, and what they're able to currently do, but it also provides what they struggle with and what they need to be able to do. And that information is going to be crucial to develop a quality IEP goal for your students, one that is truly individualized. So you fill this out based on that information, then you plug it into whatever generative AI model you wish to use. Boop, 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 boop. And then it generates an IEP goal. Now, this is what I want to note. With those examples, that's where they stopped. But here, this is not where we stop. Once the IEP goal is generated, then the knowledge as the expert in the field, the practitioner, you're going to check the IEP goal. You're going to look for quality indicators and you're going to make sure it's individualized and meets the needs of your students and where they need to be going over the next year. And if it doesn't fit all of those, you will revise. And if it does, you can just say, great, and check it off. But you do not want to miss this part of the process because that's one of the most crucial parts. While AI is great and it provides many avenues to help alleviate teacher workload, we still need the teacher and their knowledge base. Now I'm going to pass the baton off to Nate, and he's going to discuss the quantitative results of the study.
Thanks, Olivia. So before we go over the quantitative findings from the study, I want to first describe kind of how the data was collected from participants. So each IEP goal received a total score ranging from 0 to 6 that was determined from 6 quality indicators. Now, those quality indicators were scored as a 0 or 1 if they addressed the following questions. Number 1, does the target behavior have a beginning and an end, and can it be seen and or heard? Number 2, can the child's performance be measured over time, either qualitatively or quantitatively? Number 3, does the child need the target behavior to participate in all or most daily activities? Number 4, can the target behavior be generalized across a variety of settings, materials, and or people? Number 5, can the target behavior be taught across daily activities? And then finally, can the target behavior be taught or addressed by different people or various team members? So now that we kind of have the how out of the way, let's look at what we found. The 56 participants' Qualtrics activity mean scores and standard deviations of the IEP goal ratings were compared. Overall, mean scores were higher for the teacher-only goals than the teacher and AI goals. So that's to say that teachers, on average, rated the goals that they wrote on their own as slightly higher quality than the goals they generated using AI. So this suggests that while the teacher-only goals were considered higher quality, the AI goals are still comparable in quality. So to assess this and determine if the differences between the overall teacher ratings of the teacher-only goals versus the teacher and AI goals were statistically significant, we did a 2-sample t-test, and we found that the teacher-only group had a mean score of 4.98, whereas the teacher and AI group had a mean score of 4.86. So the differences between, or the difference rather, between the group means was not statistically significant, which further indicates that the quality of IEP goals were comparable, whether created by the teachers themselves or using an AI. Raters 1 and 2 are also featured on this table. And we want to just point out that overall, the mean scores from Rater 1 and Rater 2 are lower than the teacher's mean scores, yet similar to those teacher ratings, the mean scores were higher for the teacher-only goals versus the AI goals. There's one small caveat with Rater 2, I believe in the version B comparisons, where that was flip-flopped, but overall, very similar comparisons. So with that, the finding is that there's really no difference between what the teachers were generating and what AI was generating. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Danielle, who's going to talk about the qualitative results.
Thanks, Nate. Super briefly, these were the three big themes that we got out from our qualitative results, and we'll talk a little bit more about them in the implications here in just a second. But Olivia has also touched on this a little bit when she was talking about the practical use in this middle theme of still like determining the quality of AI generated products needs to come from human expertise, which is really, I think, important. Overall, in the study, we saw that generative AI is capable of writing those comparable quality IEP goals for experienced special education teachers, and that they positively perceived generative AI as a tool that can help reduce their workload burden, at least specific to the IEP process. So, our implications. This study demonstrated that generative AI can support special education teachers in their jobs, as we previously discussed. And as a result of that, teacher preparation programs and professional development need to provide training for teachers on generative AI so that they can really utilize it to the best of their ability. And also, we need more studies on how AI impacts teachers because most of the AI studies that we have seen so far, as of talking about this paper, has been focused more on students. Thanks so much for coming today. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. It was our pleasure to share this work with you. Bye.